Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unless, a Stand Together podcast. We are students of the group Stand Together, which focuses on destroying the stigma behind mental health. Today we'll be talking about eating disorders and how media and diet culture can negatively affect one's body image. But before we get into that, let's meet our hosts.
Hi, I'm Ella. I'm a rising freshman at the University of Pittsburgh.
Hi, I'm Kara. I'm going to be a junior at Shaler Area High School in the fall.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, a senior at Shaler Area High School.
Hi, I'm Riley. I am a rising junior at Shaler Area High School. Due to the sensitive nature of the topics being discussed, we want to encourage you to keep your own wellness in mind. The exact topics discussed will be listed in the description. If at any time you're feeling overwhelmed while listening, please take a break and/or talk to an adult that you trust. Remember, we are not experts. Anything we say is simply a matter of opinion and personal experience.
I thought I'd start this episode off talking about what my personal experiences are. Obviously, this isn't what everyone experiences necessarily. This is simply what I've been through regarding eating disorders. I've always been sort of self-conscious about my weight. I needed to sort out my OCD and anxiety issues before I could realize that I even had an eating disorder, which was about 2 years ago now. My journey took me to an inpatient hospitalization, then to an eating disorder specific IOP, which was really helpful in teaching me coping skills and helping me to establish a meal plan to normalize my eating patterns again and making me feel confident in my body. I have been diagnosed with eating disorder, not an eating disorder that is not otherwise specified, and body dysmorphic disorder. And knowing how isolating experiencing those can be, I'd like to use my experiences to make other people feel less alone. Personally, I'm still going to therapy to work on my skills, and I probably legally can't say that I encourage everyone to go to therapy, but therapy was very helpful for me personally.
All right, so I wanted to start by reaffirming the definition of a mental illness. So a mental illness is a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, mood, and behavior, and interferes with their ability to go to work or school, carry out daily activities, and have satisfying social relationships. All right, so I wanted to give some definitions of eating disorders, not only as an umbrella term, but some more well-known eating disorders provided by Stand Together. So an eating disorder is a serious condition in which an individual has a preoccupation with food and weight and can often focus on nothing else. They can be overweight or underweight, and this includes anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating.
So anorexia is restrictive eating, fasting, excessive exercise, intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat, and a preoccupation with eating health and maintaining a specific diet.
Bulimia is self-induced vomiting or the misuse of medications to induce bowel movements.
Binge eating is feeling unable to control eating, what or how much, or ingesting a larger quantity of food than usual in a shorter period of time.
Also, endos, an eating disorder not otherwise specified, is any eating disorder that doesn't fall into the above categories.
Okay, so other examples of eating disorders are orthorexia, ARFID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, anorexia athletica, pica, and others.
Body dysmorphia, however, is not an eating disorder. As it is a standalone disorder called body dysmorphic disorder, we have included it here as it has an impact on body image.
Okay, so we're going to talk about diet culture. So, Ella, what is diet culture?
So that's sort of the catch-all term that we use talking about like how society and media and just like seems like the whole world at sometimes promotes losing weight and dieting and always looking super skinny and ideal weight. Basically this whole set of beliefs and expectations for people's bodies that really aren't healthy. They're actually rather toxic since we see so much of them all the time.
So I feel like a lot of things in like media tailor things more towards be skinny and look a certain way rather than be healthy. The whole dieting fad thing.
I was actually going outside, not yesterday, the other day, which is, in this day and age kind of rare. And I noted a store, I don't remember the name, but it was very loudly displaying like, lose up to 15% of your body weight or your money back. And I was like, wow, how did we get here? How did we get to the point where you can build entire businesses, entire products off of things that aren't even going to work in the long term? I've added some links in the description with articles that talk about how these fad diets don't work, or if they do work, it's very short term. So if you want to learn more about that, check out the links in the description.
Do you know some of the things that like companies market towards people to like use as like diet things to like do this and lose a bunch of weight?
Something that I've seen advertised on Instagram a lot is flat tummy tea, but there are also pills, other teas. There are a bunch of food products. I've seen like there are candies that are like this one single lollipop counts as a whole meal. Like, wait a second.
Yeah, I think that's practically starving yourself.
So I just wanted to say that now, especially with the rise of TikTok and social media and people just becoming more active on like social media apps, a lot of like weight loss and like starving yourself is becoming normalized. And I don't like that idea, because now a lot of people are just like talking about how they don't eat at all on any day and they only have water all day. And the things that I see are a lot of taking baking soda to make yourself throw up. That was a trend I saw a lot on TikTok, and that really affected me personally. I was like, this can't be normalized, like people, because it makes it harder for people who actually suffer from these eating disorders to go get help, which isn't good at all, because now it's not taken seriously as it should be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that like across a lot of social media, it's the norm, or it gets you a lot of followers to be somebody who is a certain body type and who like promotes that they are like fitting this standard of skinny and like a bunch of other things.
Yeah, it makes it so you feel like because you look a certain way, you aren't capable of doing certain things. So, like, now, like, with TikTok, like, you can't become popular unless you look like all the other people who are popular. And just thinking about, like, taking, like, the list of all of the most popular TikTok creators, they all do look a certain way. And it's very damaging to one's ego. Not only ego, but like self-image, and it makes it so like now like it strays from the social media factor and becomes an everyday factor. So you feel like I can't have this friend because I don't look a certain way, and I'm not as able to be loved because I don't look a certain way, and it's really like toxic, and it should be fixed.
I would go so far even to say that it can contribute to viewers. It can contribute to their developing eating disorders. I know that before I was diagnosed with an eating disorder, something that would often make me feel really, even sometimes subconsciously guilty that I didn't look a certain way was scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, or even seeing other people's photos on Snapchat. It's that constant culture of comparing yourself that over time really messes up your way of thinking and makes you very susceptible to an eating disorder.
Back in like 2012 to 2015, when Tumblr was in its prime, it was cool to be like a scene girl. It was really damaging because they encouraged eating disorder behaviors a lot, and it was cool to be skinny. And the YouTuber Eugenia Cooney, who was super popular, had an eating disorder. We don't know what kind. She never disclosed that, which is fine. But a lot of people looked up to her, especially younger girls, And I think that was very damaging. What she said in the video about going to get help and how she's still working on it, even after spending time getting help. It's like, yeah, it's not going to be fixed right away, but she used her platform to show that, yes, this is helpful. You can go do this and you'll get through it. So she took a damaging platform and made it helpful.
I just want to say that goes along the lines of thinspo, which I'm seeing a lot on Twitter nowadays, because as Tumblr isn't as popular as it used to be, a lot of those accounts have moved to Twitter. It just goes to show that it's normalized now when it shouldn't be.
I think that a lot of body image stuff has been tailored towards girls specifically for a really long time. It started with like magazines and posting models that are photoshopped to like this unhuman proportion, but also like promoting a bunch of different ads are like how to lose weight fast, what the best way to look is right now, summer fashion, shaming people for looking a certain way. That's a big thing, is what was like, look what happened to this girl, she now gained a ton of weight, and they shame her for it. And that is very toxic. But not only is this tailored towards girls, it's also a big thing for guys and for other people to be like, you need to look this certain way to be a valid human being. For like adult men, there's a big thing that's like, you have to be muscular, you have to be skinny, you have to have this like perfect torso body shape, and you have to be strong. And that's not okay either. That's also very toxic. And there does seem to be like a lot of stuff tailored towards girls, but it's also just as bad for guys and for other people.
From what Riley said, one of the personal examples I've seen is one of my favorite celebrities of all time. His name is Hayden Christensen, who you might know from Star Wars. He played Anakin Skywalker. So he was bashed basically his entire career after Star Wars for ruining the saga, but a long time after Star Wars, he did a movie with Emma Roberts in 2018 called Little Italy. And the movie got a lot of criticism. It was not that good. It was a rom-com, and it just got a lot of criticism. And a lot of the criticism fell on Hayden. And the criticism that he received wasn't on his acting. It was on how he looked. And they were saying that he wasn't as physically fit as he used to be when he did Star Wars, and he looked like he gained weight, and he looked like now he has a dad bod, and he wasn't as attractive as he used to be. And criticizing acting is a lot different than criticizing someone's weight. And I feel like it was just normalized, like laughed off, because he's just, he's a guy, he's a celebrity, he can handle it. But as we've seen with this actor, like he couldn't handle it, and he stopped acting, and it was really, really sad just seeing someone who had a passion for acting just like lose it and started becoming body shamed just because of who they are. And it was really sad just seeing like an actor you love just like fall off the planet, and like he shouldn't have to go through that.
I saw something similar where Zac Efron in Baywatch had dehydrated himself and for like 3 days to get to this like perfect body image for the movie. His muscles were like super defined and he looked super fit, but he was obviously not healthy because he was dehydrated, and he said that he felt horrible on the shoots. So that's not healthy. And then a little bit later, doing another shoot, he had not dehydrated for the shoot and still like looked perfectly fit, but he got some reviews that said like, look at this dad bod. He really like, he gained some weight for this, obviously. He has a dad bod. And I'm like, no, I don't understand that like there's still a stigma behind men's bodies too. That's like, if you are not 100% like defined muscles and fit to the point of like dehydrating yourself to look that way, then you have a dad bod or you have less muscle, when that's just not true. It's better to be healthy rather than to look good.
One more example, something that I think we all might have gone through in school, is being required to find our BMI. And I remember it really negatively impacted my self-esteem when they said I was obese. I'm not, but it did make me very self-conscious. And the fact that schools are making us do this can also contribute to eating disorders when the BMI is proven not to be a great measure of health or fitness.
I also had an experience with BMI in middle school that was very damaging, as I was classified as underweight on the chart. Despite the fact that I was healthy, the chart did not see it that way, as I was a gymnast, so I had to bring a paper to my doctor and get it signed off that I was healthy. And due to the fact that my body type was not what the chart wanted, it felt like I was being criticized by that, and by the end of the year, we were graded on if we improved that BMI. Didn't matter how we got to that point as long as it improved. And despite me being healthy the whole time, it was inevitably more damaging on me than good.
I'd like to pivot the conversation now to more talk about social media. We already talked about it a little before, but I think it would be a good idea to talk about social media as well as other mainstream media that presents eating disorders or diet culture and how they're presented in different lights.
So some media that involves eating disorders include Heather's, Glee, Lady Bird, Degrassi, Black Swan, Pretty Little Liars, Gossip Girl, and etc. These usually make it very tragic or a sign of shallow character. These are normally young girls, women, and they're normally very skinny. So that's very, very wrong, because not only does it prioritize just women, it also makes it so that if you feel that you suffer from an eating disorder, that it's not as valid as the ones that are shown on the movies or the TV, because you're not going through a very tragic experience as they could be. So it also makes you seem like you're not as worthy as a person almost, because these characters that experience this are normally very shallow and normally aren't as, like, it makes them seem like they're desperate for attention or something, and that's not good at all. And back to what we were saying about how men and not only as celebrities go through this, but men in TV shows do go through it too, but it's not as shown as it is for women, which in turn makes it seem that women are the only ones who suffer, which is not true at all.
Media portrayals of eating disorders can also stigmatize eating disorders, specifically by using stigmatizing language where they treat fat as a bad word. That was something I had to unlearn in therapy. Anorexic for just anyone who's skinny, ignoring the fact that it's a serious mental illness. Even bulimic, if they're using it just to refer to, throwing up, that's not encompassing the entire experience of the disorder. But
Okay.
There are actually social media accounts that do inspire hope. Jamila Jamil, for example, she's an actress and also a eating disorder activist. She runs the account and community called I Weigh as well. And on her social media, she's constantly talking about how models are airbrushed or photoshopped on magazine covers, how we can work to be more inclusive of all shapes and sizes, and how we can avoid encouraging or normalizing eating disorders by using stigmatizing language. I highly encourage you to check her out. And on TikTok, Victoria Garrick is another eating disorder activist. She focuses a lot on her experiences as a competitive athlete, recovering from an eating disorder, and also posting a lot of positive affirmation for people who might be self-conscious about the way they look or in recovery from an eating disorder.
Kara, would you like to talk about some of your personal experiences?
Yeah, so now I'm going to get into some of the stuff I've struggled with. And I would like to say first that I am not diagnosed with an eating disorder at all. But this is just some of the stuff that I've gone through more with body image and how I perceive myself, less like a body eating disorder. So from a young age, I always knew I was differently sized than my other classmates. Just from when I was in first grade, just looking at myself and looking at other girls, I always knew that I didn't look like them. And at that age, I didn't think it was wrong. And now it's not wrong, but at that time, I was just like, well, I look different. And then as soon as you get into middle school and elementary school, a lot of opinions change about how you feel. And I feel like everyone kind of goes through a negative point in their life where they feel like they're different. But for me, it was always just being compared to others. And I always knew that my friends, they were always small and they were always skinnier than me. And they were always telling me how they were always smaller than me and they were always skinnier than me. One of the things that I don't like about how I look is that sometimes if I say, oh, I feel fat today or I feel big, they're like, no, you're beautiful. As in, you're either fat or you're beautiful. And I feel like that might be something we need to change as a society. So I've always shopped in the adult section, basically from 5th grade and up. I've always just been in the adult section, and it's just been easier to find clothes for me. And as I work my way through the timeline, I started to fall into some fad diets. These included apple cider vinegar, only eating a piece of toast a day, and only drinking black coffee for the whole day, which wasn't okay. Looking back on it, it really could damage my workings and my inner organs. And I fell into pills and all of these things, and they weren't getting me anywhere. They weren't getting me to the point I wanted to be at. So then eventually around January, I started to self-harm, and that is not okay, and that was never okay. And it wasn't getting better for me, and it hasn't gone better for me now being in quarantine and just sitting around all day. It's not getting better. And around the end of June, I hit my breaking point. I was self-harming at least twice a week, and I started making myself throw up. I would like to say that I don't do this anymore. It was a week-long thing, and then I realized that it's not okay. And it was basically a cry for help, and that's not everyone's story. That's just mine. That's not how it has to be for everyone else. That's just what happened for me. So then my mom found out about my self-harm, and so finally, after a year of asking, she was taking me to therapy, and I was asking to go to therapy for the longest time, and it wasn't getting anywhere. And it was very upsetting to me that I had to do stuff like that for my mom to believe me. And now I've started therapy on the 21st of July. I went for a consultation, and that went great. And then last Tuesday, the 28th, was my first appointment with my therapist, and I love her a lot. And so far, it's helped a lot, and I do love therapy so far. I've only gone to 2 appointments, and it's just really refreshing for me to talk to someone that isn't my mom or my dad. And I believe it can help if you feel like you're going through a lot. You don't have to feel like you even have a mental disorder or an eating disorder. Just going to talk to someone could be very helpful to you. And that's my story.
Kara, I want to thank you so much for sharing that with us. I know it's a lot of personal stuff for you, and the fact that you shared it here shows that's a big step. That's absolutely wonderful, and I hope that you get better in therapy, and I hope that you heal well. And Ella, also thank you so much for sharing at the beginning of this episode.
For more information on eating disorders and ways to get help, please check out the links in the description. There is always hope, and you are never alone in your struggles. Another wonderful resource was actually created by another Stand Together group, and that is the e-zine discussing body dysmorphia and eating disorders. The link will also be in the description for you to check out. Thank you for listening to this episode of Unless, a student discussion on mental health. We would like to conclude with a quote from Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Our social media will be in the description, along with mental health resources, hotlines, and further information on eating disorders. Join us in our next and final episode of the season as we discuss ADHD.